This hour, and our special coverage continues with Jake Tapper.
Mark down February 7th, what could be a day of reckoning for President Trump. The lead starts right now. Breaking news, the president's former fixer now agreeing to testify in public right before Congress about the work he did for Donald Trump. What secrets might he reveal? D.C. keeps squabbling while 800,000 federal workers' paychecks hang in the balance. Today, President Trump is touring the border and hinting that his mind could already be made up about using emergency powers to fund the wall. Plus, the tabloid that helped President Trump bury his affairs exposes an extramarital affair of one of the president's newest arch rivals, Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos, ahead of the most expensive divorce in history. Coincidence?
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to the Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. We begin with breaking news. The first major move by House Democrats that is certain to draw the ire of President Trump. President Trump's former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen, will tell the American people what he knows. Cohen has agreed to testify publicly before the House Oversight Committee on February 7th. Cohen's been cooperating with special counsel Robert Mueller after pleading guilty to crimes that include felonies that he says were directed by Donald Trump. President Trump has denied the charges. This is breaking news. Let's dive right into it with our panel. Kevin Madden, I'll start with you. I mean, he'll almost certainly be talking about the hush payments to women, but there's going to be a lot of questions. This is going to be a day President Trump is going to hate.
Yeah, I think the biggest danger here, too, is that there's always danger when your biggest advocate, your strongest enforcer, who was Michael Cohen in his former life working for Donald Trump, becomes your biggest detractor. The other part of this is there's always been this sort of missing element. What did the president know? When did he know it? It's very likely, or at least there's strong indications, that Michael Cohen sort of holds the key to those answers. But I think the other thing to remember, too, is that when we ask this question, like, will it change any minds up on Capitol Hill? Will we start to see maybe, a run from the president on this? He's still a partisan inkblot in many ways, in that, people who, in the past had said, well, don't listen to Michael Cohen. He's not, as a Trump supporter, he can't be trusted. Now we're going to be taking his word as Bible full of truth, right, because he's, because he's going to be saying things about the president. And then people who were previously defenders of Michael Cohen, the president himself, will now be saying he's a liar. So that much isn't going to change.
Jen Psaki, if you were advising House Democrats, what would you tell them to do in terms of the hearing, in terms of Michael Cohen and all the secrets he could spill?
Well, the hearing itself is going to be a spectacle, I think, as we can all agree. And I think they did that on purpose because they had to come out of the gate strong and send the message that they are going to hold the Trump administration accountable. But as for the hearing, I would say they need to come to the table and get more information, new information out of Michael Cohen. So don't spend too much time on the hush money payments, because there's a lot known about that. It's been confirmed by Michael Cohen, by SDNY, by basically every entity.
Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani. So what you want to do is you want to get to what Kevin was talking about, was what did Donald Trump know, and when did he know it?
About the Russia investigation.
And about many things, I would say, and that's how they can kind of further this investigation. I mean, not investigation, but kind of further this narrative about Trump and the administration.
Kristen, I want to get your reaction to a comment. We just got a statement from Michael Cohen. He says, quote, "I look forward to having the privilege of being afforded a platform with which to give a full and credible account of the events which have transpired," unquote. I mean, Kevin's right in the sense that people who used to say don't listen to Michael Cohen now believe him, and the roles have completely switched. But he will be under oath.
Sure, and he already now knows the penalty of when you do say things under oath that are not quite true, just how serious that is. I mean, plenty of people have gotten ensnared through the process of this special counsel investigation in saying things to the authorities that aren't quite true and then paying the price for it. But I think if I was advising House Republicans on this, I would advise them to try to put very tight barriers around what should be asked in this hearing. Michael Cohen's statement just there says, I'm going to talk about the events that transpired. Almost anything could fall under the events that transpired.
Everything, right.
That's everything. And things like the Russia investigation have strong bipartisan support. Let's figure out what happened with regards to what Russia did in our elections, who knew what and when. But if it comes to, let's start digging into what did Donald Trump do that was business practices that may have been shady in past decades. I mean, there are places this could go that would be unflattering to the president, but are not necessarily the sorts of things that it may be justified for Congress to be digging into.
And Jamal, sometimes these congressional hearings, sometimes they will be really organized and well thought out, and somebody will say, okay, this is what we want you to ask about, this is what you should ask about, and it's really done very strategically. And then oftentimes, that's not what happened, however. Oftentimes, it's just members of the House just, bloviate and pontificate. I assume that you're hoping that Chairman Cummings will do the former.
Yeah, I've actually talked to Chairman Cummings about his approach to investigations in general, not particularly this investigation, but all of them. And what he has been very clear about is that he's not looking to score a home run off the first time at bat. He wants to methodically go through this. He talks a lot of the time about being a lawyer and building a case from the bottom up. So I think you're not going to see him do that. Now, what the rest of the people on the committee do, who knows? But the one thing I'm very curious to hear from Michael Cohen is, a long time ago, I decided to stop thinking about Donald Trump as a politician and think of him as a former casino owner. And once you put that lens on Donald Trump, he makes a lot more sense. And I think Michael Cohen will help reveal some of the shady characters and shady practices the former casino owner from Atlantic City does in the White House.
And we just got a statement from Elijah Cummings, the top Democrat, the chairman on the Oversight Committee. He says of Cohen, quote, he'll have a chance to tell his side of the story, and we'll have a chance to question him. The American people deserve that. The other thing is very clear. The White House is going to say Cohen's a liar. And in fact, he's going to jail because he's a liar. And he's going to jail for 3 years because he's a liar. So why is anybody even paying any attention to anything he has to say?
And they won't stop there. They're going to build an entire syndicate designed to, attack the credibility of Michael Cohen. And I know we have high expectations for Congress and doing what, what Kristen talked about, which is like, drawing a very narrow box around what we can ask about him. But I have very low expectations for that. I expect that it will be a partisan circus, and that members of Congress that are aligned with President Trump are going to just go at him with just try and hammer him on his credibility.
Do you think that the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels and the hush money payments made to Karen McDougal, that should be a primary focus, in terms of campaign finance irregularities and convictions, or do you think that people should actually go in there and more investigatively and just try to find out about Russia and crimes that they don't know about?
I think they should not spend the majority of their time on the hush money payments. Obviously, there are ongoing investigations about that. There are some questions that should be asked about that by Congress, but they need to have an orchestrated approach. I think the hardest challenge for Democrats is not making this their showboating moment where they're going to get on the national map, and that's very hard to coordinate, as sort of Jamal was referencing, just to put it mildly. But they will help themselves in the long run if they don't do that.
Another breaking story today, major story, a CNN exclusive. We have just learned that Special Counsel Robert Mueller interviewed President Trump's chief campaign pollster. The news seems potentially even more significant after the revelation this week that Paul Manafort, when he was President Trump's campaign chairman, gave internal polling data to a Russian with ties to military intelligence, Konstantin Kilimnik. The pollster, Tony Fabrizio, worked with Manafort on the campaign and on the Ukrainian elections. Let's bring in CNN Sarah Murray, who broke the story. Sarah, do we know what Fabrizio might have revealed to Mueller?
Well, we only have an inkling of this. I mean, look, Tony Fabrizio is an interesting guy because he was the campaign's chief pollster, so he knew about the inner workings of the Trump campaign, but he also has this past business history with Paul Manafort doing some polling for him in Ukraine. So he went in February of 2018, he spoke with Mueller's team, and he declined to comment for our story, but a person who's familiar with his interview said he was asked about some of this Ukrainian polling work he did with Paul Manafort. He was not asked about the proprietary Trump campaign polling. What we don't know is what other topics may have been broached in this interview. This was all coming at a time when prosecutors were digging into Paul Manafort's business dealings, digging into his work in Ukraine, but they were told by the Justice Department to dig into that stuff because they wanted to know how it fit into the broader picture, if it did, about coordination with the Russians. So it's hard to know what Tony Fabrizio could have provided, but obviously he had his hands in a lot of different pots there, Jake.
And Sarah, what might this interview with Fabrizio, the president's pollster, reveal about the direction Mueller's taking the investigation?
Well, I think it just reveals how big the scope of Mueller's investigation is. You know, Tony Fabrizio's interview is newly relevant, newly interesting, because we just got this bombshell revelation earlier this week that Paul Manafort was sharing polling data with a Russian associate. Up until this point, we had no idea that Mueller's team even really cared about what was going on with the Trump polling data. Certainly no inclination that Manafort was sharing this internal